Um, Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you to our Thursday Facebook live series. The last time I was here, I talked on the topic rights of a woman in marriage. So, and this time around, I hope the topic I have for today is going to really interest you, and I hope you really enjoy it. Meanwhile, the other time, due to some distractions and the fact I didn't have my papers on the table, I had a little distraction, but hopefully today it's going to be better than the other time because I have my papers here. So peradventure whatever happens and I forget whatever, I have my papers to remind me. Thank you. I hope you sit and relax while we enjoy this together. All right. Today's topic is on rights of a prisoner. Yes, of course, we're in Nigeria, so we are using Nigeria as a case study. We're in Nigeria, so we're not talking about rights of a prisoner in America, rights of a prisoner in China. No, we're talking about Nigeria, of course, you know. So the situation is Nigeria. We're talking about rights of a prisoner in Nigeria. So I'm going to start by defining what a prison is. So a prison is a public building or other place of confinement of persons, whether as a punishment imposed by law or otherwise in the course of administration of justice. From the above definition, we would see that for a place to be called a prison, the place has to be a public building. It doesn't have to be a private building. If it's a private building, then it's not a prison. So it has to be a public building, and it also has to be a place confining the person who is in the building, restricting you from your liberty. So the place you can call the place, and it has to be done as a way of punishment for a crime the person has committed. So, and I'm going to also step down a bit more by defining who a prisoner is. So a prisoner is someone who is deprived of his liberty, or someone who is against his will kept in confinement or custody as a result of conviction of a crime. So if you commit a crime and you're convicted, you found guilty, you're convicted, and the penalty is imprisonment, you are taken into a prison. If you still remember what we talked about when we talked about the meaning of a prison, if you commit a crime and you're convicted and you're put in that place, then you are called a prisoner. And now when you are a prisoner, you should not be expecting some certain liberties. There are some things that naturally you should not be expecting. Going by the meaning of prison and a prisoner, you should not, because there's a word that's when you go through these definitions, there's a word there's something you would notice, which is deprivation of liberty. So that deprivation for that cause, there are some certain liberties you should not expect. So now I'm going to step back a bit again by defining what liberty is. Now, liberty can be defined as freedom. Liberty can be defined as freedom from all restraints except such as justly imposed by law, freedom from restraints from conditions essential to the equal enjoyment of others. The word liberty also includes personal rights and their enjoyment. So as you are a person, you are not you have not been convicted of any crime, you're not in the custody, you have the liberty to do various things, to do anything you wish to do, of course, anything which is legal that you wish to do. So when you have that liberty, you have the right to do all these things. When you're given the opportunity to do all these things, you can say you have liberty. But when you are a prisoner, you cannot be said to have these liberties. Now, legal authors have gone far beyond that, and they have also made us to understand that this freedom is just not, is this liberty is just not all about freedom from arrest. Rather, it can also say it includes freedom of action, freedom of freedom to own, control, and use property, freedom to pursue any lawful trade, business in Nigeria, and freedom to make all proper contracts in relation thereto. So you see, that is also another, I mean, in another dimension, this can also be called freedom, when no one is restricting you from doing any of these things. Because yeah, as a Nigerian, you have your rights. You have rights that no one can encroach into, and if anyone does that, the person is going against your rights, and the person is is going against the laws. So if you have liberty, you're expected to enjoy these rights. Now, however, we are going to, if you are familiar with prison and its environment and its runnings, you would see, or you would understand that sometimes you see people, if you go on prison visitation, you see people who tell you their stories, and they will tell you they've been in prison for so long. They've been meanwhile, these people who are confined in these buildings, in prisons, and this prison, supposing they were tried for the offense which they are being accused of, maybe the offense would have been, the penalty would be like 1 year imprisonment. But some of these people have stayed up to like months, running into years, and they have not been tried. That's not right. Every prisoner has the right to be tried. You have the right to be taken to court and be heard, and be heard out. There's something we call fair hearing. You're supposed to be heard. You're supposed to you're supposed to be tried. So if anyone is not trying you, if anyone is not trying you, and the person they put you inside the prison without hearing from you, you're not taken to any court, no, that's not right. You are not supposed to be, like, that's not your house. So if anybody's removing you, like bringing you out from your house, your place of living, and the person is taking you into a prison, you have every right to be heard. And actually, if you're found guilty of the offense you're being accused of, then you can be prosecuted, you can be convicted. Now, sometimes these people actually get what we call extrajudicial favors, or extrajudicial favors. In that, we mean that sometimes when these people eventually get tried and now convicted for the offense that they are accused of, they can grant them liberty, they can grant them freedom, in the sense that they have overstayed the actual time for which they ought to stay for the crime they have now been convicted of. So that is it. Now, you would remember that when I talked about deprivation, when I talked about defined prison and prisoner, there was something I said about deprivation of liberty. So when you're a prisoner, like I said, you should not be expecting certain kinds of freedom now. But even at that, you're still a human being. Being a prisoner doesn't negate you from being a human being. So you have the right to be treated as a human being. You have the right to dignity of human person. Then you have the right to be given, accorded the same value as a human being that you are. So that you have committed an offense and you've been convicted if they've been convicted for an offense, and you've been put in prison, doesn't stop you from being a human being. Now, okay, I don't know if you have also heard about this saying that human beings make evidence. It's just the way all these things go. Is your amount of a lawyer's amount of weight of evidence can actually make the person win or lose a case. So some people say, yeah, human beings make evidence. Sometimes this evidence are not even real. They are not real. you can convict someone based on the evidence someone has against the person, but all these things can be cooked up. Actually, someone brilliant can cook up a very brilliant evidence against someone, and for that someone can be charged, can be convicted and now put into prison. So in that scenario now, the fact that you should not be treated less than a human being is also going to now be looked at, because supposing someone cooked up this evidence against you, like I'm just asking you to imagine this. Supposing someone cooks up an evidence against someone, and for that evidence the person is now convicted and put into a prison. Actually, when the person knows, oh, I didn't do this, and owing to the fact of how prisoners are treated, the person now goes through, aside the fact that the person is put into prison, the person is now treated in a very messy way, in an indecent way. Like, it's going to be really horror for the person. Being put inside prison is one, then being treated in a very uncivilized way is another thing, which is pretty bad. Now, there's also a saying that you should not judge the state and the goodness of a nation until one has been inside the jail. And there's another one saying that a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens but its lowest citizens. But due to the overcrowding of our prisons, which has violated the rights of prisoners as inherent human beings, they sleep in shifts on the floor, not as human beings but as animals. This is contrary to the Constitution and the Acts, the Prisons Act, which the Constitution has promised us as citizens of Nigeria. The Constitution has promised us a lot of things, but the practical way prisoners are treated is now so contrary to what the Constitution has promised us. And by the way, prisons, I should have mentioned this earlier, prisons and everything, prisons generally are regulated by the Prisons Act, Law and Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 1990. So, and if you look at this Prisons Act, you would see the following provisions. Like in Section 15. Section 15 of the Act makes provision for the separation of male and female prisoners. Male and female prisoners are not, for whatever reason, supposed to put together in one place. You know, they say that the reason there are laws is to curb some excesses. People say that authors and writers say that human beings naturally are wicked and evil, and there's nothing we cannot do. So the reason the laws have been made is to curb all these things that naturally would have happened. Like, people would have been killing themselves naturally, but for these laws, they curb them. So if you're found wanting, you're convicted, you're set tried, sentenced, and all that. So now, supposing these people are put together, definitely that you're not a rapist doesn't mean another person is not a rapist. That you have a conscience and you're scared for what may happen to you doesn't mean another person you can say someone else is like that too. So for one, if people were put into supposing women and men were put together in the prison, a lot of things would happen. Men would rape women. You see, we have stories where women rape men. Men are going to rape men. There are going to be lots and lots of problems. But the Act provides that men and women should be separated. They should be put apart in prison. Now, a friend of mine. We are so sorry for the interruption. We had a little challenge. We are really sorry. So I'm quickly going to start from continue from where we stopped. So I'm going to start from, to make sure I am not missing out on anything, I'm going to start from the parts where I made mention of the prisons in Nigeria being regulated by the Prisons Act and the laws of the Federation of Nigeria and laws of the Federation 1990. So, and if you look at this act, like I said earlier, if you look at this act, you would see the following provisions. Like Section 15 of the act makes provision for male and female prisoners to be separated, put in different parts different confinements, different rooms. So I also gave an illustration of that fact, that supposing they were all put together, different things would be happening, guys raping girls, girls raping guys, and lots of things would be happening there. And I also made mention of section 42 of the same act, which makes provision for this prisoners to be allowed to have visitors, friends, family visit them. But that the condition for that is that the visitation or whatever that is going to happen between you and the visitor is going to be in the presence of a prison officer. So I also made mention of the other acts, also talking about the prisoners being allowed to write and receive letters. But I also said that, but that is at the discretion of the superintendent. And I also made mention of the fact that most people don't even know this, because I've never seen that happening before. So it's really, if it has happened maybe once or twice, most people don't even know their rights, that they have the right to write and receive letters while they are in prison. So I'm here to educate you. I'm telling you that you have that right. But the only hinge is just that it has to be at the discretion of the superintendent. And we know that, like I said earlier, everybody knows that, like we all say this, that when someone of little power is given it's a position that kind of makes him have control over certain things, the person tends to misuse it, because they just want you to, because of their self-esteem, they try to make you look, okay, I'm the boss. So most times they don't get to allow this, because they're not, like, okay, this is at my discretion. So why would you even, after you kill, you see some people insulting you, after killing somebody, after doing this, after doing that, oh, you want to receive letters, you want to receive that, you're not in your father's house. So a lot of things like that happen, and that is it. And that's just it. And I also made mention of section 48 of the same act, making provisions for offenses against prison discipline. And I said that you're a prisoner doesn't negate the fact that you're a human being. So that you have been confined in that place to punish you for the offense which you've been accused and convicted for, doesn't mean another person should add another sort of penalty to your to the crime. So that the person doesn't have any right to hold you by your jugular and shake you to death. The person doesn't have any right to spit on your face, kick you, push you, do whatever he wants. No, that's not part of it. And Nigerians, like I said earlier, we are used to taking things very lightly. Someone gives a punch, or like, it's just a punch, like, why would I, like, oh, so because of this thing I should start going to court? No, it's just a little thing. That's it. That's the reason we won't grow. Okay, let me not sound like I'm cursing Nigeria. We are going to grow, but unlike in the Western world where anything is taken up, you slap someone, the person takes it up like it's not a little thing. Meanwhile, that's the reason we have all these laws. So if you keep allowing them someone does this and you allow the person does that, you allow the person, how are we going to cope these things? So on to the next one. I also made mention okay, I also want to talk about the fact that the fact that prisons are overcrowded is another way of stepping on their rights. I know, okay, I also said a prisoner has the right to be tried. You don't have to, nobody has the right to keep you in the prisons for as long as the person wants. If anybody has brought you out from your comfort zone to put you in a prison because the person feels, okay, you did this, the person should as well do well, also do well to at least take you to court. Let the court hear the matter. Let it be determined. Let the case be judged. This is what happened. This is not what happened. Nobody has the right to put you there and keep you forever and ever. It's not right, and you have every right to be tried. So if this has happened to you, or is happening to someone you know, your relation, your friend, you can take it off. And I also I want to say that the crowding of our prisons has violated the rights of prisoners as human beings. They sleep in shifts on the floor, not as human beings, but as animals. This is contrary to the constitutional guarantees and provisions of the Prisons Act. For one, a prisoner has different rights, and these rights, like I said, there is a limit to your liberty. So long as you are in prison, you are termed prisoner, there's a limit to your rights. you shouldn't expect everything. Like when I defined the meaning of liberty, which means freedom, I defined it in different contexts. I also went further to define it in the way the legal authors have written, like it's freedom freedom of action, freedom to engage yourself in any business, legal business and transactions and contracts there too. But that is what you shouldn't expect, the kind of things you shouldn't expect when you're a prisoner. But there are these rights that you have as a prisoner. Like no one should take these rights away from you. These rights include right to life, rights to integrity of human person, right to life and integrity of person, right to freedom from torture or ill treatment. That's what I talked about when I made mention of the section 48, making provisions for offenses against prison discipline. You see prisoners going through a lot of things. You see someone being convicted for the flimsiest of reasons, then you see the kind of punishment they give to the person. Things that you shouldn't, on a normal day, you shouldn't even do to someone who is not a prison. For one, those people need help. If you've been to a prison, you would see how these people are suffering. The environment is not conducive at all. Okay, I know some of them may have committed the crime, and I also made mention earlier that some people say, yeah, evidence, okay, someone is convicted by the weight of evidence the other person has against him or her. But however, these evidence can be manipulated, can be created by human beings. So an intelligent person can create a very bad evidence against you, like a very weighty evidence against you, and based on this evidence you can be convicted. So meanwhile, some of these people didn't even do these things. Like, it's the reality. Some of them didn't do it. So it's bad enough that you're put into prison, this ugly place that smell, that things with different bodies and skins rubbing against yours and all that. Then is another thing to now go through another sort of punishment that is not incorporated in your penalty, the penalty for what you have been accused of. So that is it. Another right that prisoners have is right to respect for human dignity. This is right to human dignity. Like, you have dignity of human person. Yeah, you have a right to be called a human being. You have a right to be treated as a human being and not as an animal. Then you also have right to due process of law. That is treating you according to law, as the law has stipulated. Then right to, we also have, yeah, when we are talking about this due process, we also are including the parts we made mention of trying you, where the Prisons Act makes provision for the separation of female and male prisoners, the fact that you have the right to receive visitors, the fact that you have the right not to be treated as an animal, that also goes under this due process. Then you also have the right to freedom from discrimination of any sort. You should not be discriminated. You see, Nigeria is, okay, let me not go that way, but Nigeria is, I don't know, we act in so many ways that the Westerners we claim to be following, that we claim to be learning from, we are imitating, the people we claim to imitate, like the kind of things that they hear, they're like, is this happening in the world? Not to talk of Nigeria. Like, it's so appalling. You know, you hear some people, you hear warders treating you in such a way that a dog cannot even be treated. Treating you, calling you all sorts of names, maybe because you say you want to, maybe you make a complaint. Excuse me, sir, you say something, someone insults your whole generation, someone that is wrong. That is wrong. Like, no one deserves to go through that punishment. If that is part of your punishment, the law should prescribe that as your penalty. If the judge is convicting you and giving you this sentence, you are going to prison, you're going to, if that is part of the punishment, they should say it. The judge should read it out alongside your punishment. They shouldn't add another burden on top of the burden you are already carrying. So I would continue with the rights. We also have a right to freedom from slavery. Nobody has the right to treat you like a slave because you're a prisoner. Then you also have the right to freedom of conscience and of thoughts. You have that right. You have you like you're a human being, so nobody should remove that part of you because you're in prison. Then you also have a right to freedom of religion. Nigerian prisons are really not well equipped in the sense that sometimes you see that you go to some prisons, there are no particular places that you can say, I've been to one prison where there's no particular place that you would say this is for Christians or this is a Muslim should stay and pray. Like, in other words, they are limiting your right to religion. That they have removed you from your comfort place to put you inside a prison to limit your liberty because it's a part of the punishment. Doesn't mean you don't have the right to worship your God. You have the right. Nobody can tell, nobody has the right to tell you, no, don't go to church today, come and do this one. Like, there should be time for everything, but the most important thing is that your comfort is removed. But your comfort does not include worshiping your God. So that is it. And also we have the right to self-development. You have the right to develop yourself. Actually, if you watch some movies, like for some of us who haven't been to America, Canada and all that, you would see in their movies, in this Hollywood movies, that a prisoner is kept in a very beautiful environment. The prisoner feeds well, looks even fresher than he was when he got into the prison. You see, they provide books for the person, provides every different kind of things, skills for the person to people to learn and all that. When you're out from prison, it shifts you from who they said you were for the reason they have convicted you to a totally different person. You know, prisons should be corrective places, like a place you can go, learn your lessons, come out as a better person. Not coming out as a devil. Assuming you were not a devil when you got there, you come out, you turn into a devil, then you were a devil when you got there, you now up your game. No, that shouldn't be. There should be provision for people to actually change their lives. You punish someone not because you feel good punishing the person, but if you punish someone, it should be, the motive should be to correct you, to make you see reasons why what you did is not good and not to do it again. Then I also want to say that for those awaiting trials, you have every right to be treated with much respect and given protection as though you have not even you're just free in your house, because the law says until someone has been convicted, there's a presumption that the person is innocent. So if there's a presumption that, supposing me, I'm accused, but I'm still a suspect, I'm still, maybe you just put me in prison due to the level of the offense you feel I have, they say I've committed, so they don't have you can't grant me bail. You put me there, and you now start treating me as though I am one thing like that. That's not right. Like, I'm still innocent for the law. The law says I'm still innocent until I've been proven guilty. So those people have the right to be treated like human beings as though nothing has happened, because actually nothing has happened. You haven't proven it yet that this person did this and this person did not do this. So I also want to state that there are a lot of thoughts about conjugal rights. A lot of people say, okay, at least someone should be able to, like, you're a human being, you're supposed to observe some conjugal rights and all that. Actually, personally, going through the Constitution, there's no place the Constitution says it is illegal to allow someone indulge in this kind of rights. But practically, the reason all these things are like that, it's not a crime, but the reason all these things are not allowed is because, for one, the prison is not a conducive place to even stay, to even breathe. It's not a conducive place to breathe. Like, some people have gone to prison and come out with respiratory diseases and all that. Not to talk of to indulge yourselves in affairs like that. If aside the fact is you're jeopardizing your health and that of your partner, what about the child who that may be produced out of that kind of relationship? It is not a good place for an adult to be for 1 minute. Not to talk of raising a child that is still tender and delicate. That's not nice. For one, the law allows that a pregnant woman should be given time. A pregnant woman who is convicted to the law allows that the conviction or the penalty or the sentence be the execution of the sentence be stayed till maybe she's done giving birth and weaning the child. The law allows for that. Then subsequently she can be taken to the prison. Then you can now imagine if the law allows that, that means they know how bad it is to raise a child there. Not to talk of you not having being pregnant, you don't have a child, you now get there and start doing some funny things and now produce an innocent child that now comes to suffer what the child does not know. So that is actually the reason a lot of people have said this and said, why not this? But all these things are for your health. Like, everybody knows that the prison is the worst place to, like, the place you can go to contract the deadliest of the diseases. Like, even the kind of diseases that you don't know their names, you can go there and find out the names. Like, it's dirty, it's messy, it's not somewhere you should wish your enemy to be. And so all these things, with all this, I hope actually that you have been able to understand the rights that you as a prisoner or someone you know, like a prisoner, the rights a prisoner has. So peradventure, I'm not wishing you though, peradventure you get into a prison, so you're equipped at least to some level of knowledge, some level of knowledge to know what you should expect, what the warders should do to you, how you should be treated or not. So I thank you very much for sitting, relaxing, and watching with me. Please do join me next week. Do join us next week, because I don't know if I'm going to be the one to pick next week. So do join us and please enjoy your day. Bye. Okay, sorry. I don't know. I haven't been able to access the comment section, but I promise you, the time is fast spent, and I know time is money. We all have, even the people watching us, they have their different things they want to do, or they were doing before we started this program. So I promise you that I'm going to reply you after this video, after this program. I'm going to reply you, and like I said, I haven't been able to go through the sections. I can't see the questions, so I'm definitely going to reply you. Just stay tuned. I'm going to get my reply. I'll reply you one after the other. Thank you.